So I think that we are facing now the beginning of the big war in the Middle East. I think that Israel, when it started its operation in Gaza, has opened the door of the hell. Because after making what Israel has done to the civil population, there is no chance to get from this situation unharmed. So I think that there will be a big war. Now we could see only conflict between Israel and Palestine, and Israel and Shia people in Hezbollah, in Lebanon, in Syria, and the first very spectacular attack of missiles, of Iranian missiles against Israel. That was really fantastic, because nobody could imagine such a huge mass of missile attacking Israel. So, and in spite of the fact that Israel didn't respond yet for this spectacular attack, I think the war is inevitable. And Israel is involved already in the war with Hezbollah and the southern Lebanon. Israel is attacking Syrian territory, and Iran is already inside of this war. Hezbollah was very radically touched by terrorist actions of the Israelis, but we could not say that it is all, that Hezbollah is destroyed. Not at all. For the Muslim radical Shia mind, to the death of the martyr is the new power. That is not the loss. That is a kind of acquisition. That is the alternative economy of the spirit in this tradition. And I think that the position of the West, who is not going to recognize the behavior of the Israel and the Gaza as genocide, and aggression of the Israel against Lebanon, all that will provoke the big Middle East war, where step by step the other Islamic Muslim nations will be involved in. I think that it is delayed. It is a bit reduced. I don't think that Tehran is willing to start it, but I think there is no chances to avoid it at all. It is inevitable. By the logic, Israel has done already everything to start it, to provoke it, and I think now that Islamic nations they are just waiting the proper moment to enter this war, because resistance of Middle East is already involved, and Iran has made this attack, and I think that the war will continue and will start at a broader scale. Interesting that Israel has no reason to have this war, because they could not gain anything. They have everything they could hope, and all the rest is behind the rational analysis. And I think the messianic ideas of Netanyahu and the people around him, Ben-Gvir, Smotrich, Dov Lior, and other, they are playing very important part. They seriously consider that the greater Israel and destruction of Al-Mosque, Al-Aqsa Mosque, and the beginning of the reconstruction, building of the third temple will help to Moshiach, Messiah, come earlier than presumed. So they want to hasten the advancement of the coming of Mashiach, and I think that is reflected in the eschatological readiness of the Shia world to deal with such situation. that is, in the eyes of the Shia, the appearance and manifestation of Dajjal. In our lexic, it is Antichrist. But in the Islamic tradition, it is called Dajjal, the liar. So they identify easily Dajjal and Israel and the global West. So that is the final combat for them. And it could be delayed, but it could not be avoided.
Well, now we are seeing how deep and how powerful will be the axis of resistance. Because in the minds of, I would say, the scatological cult that is passing as a government in Tel Aviv at the moment. In fact, there is a government that was hijacked by a scatological cult. All those crazy ministers of the Ben-Giver and Smotrich type, these are apocalyptic lunatics. And it's impossible, any diplomacy, any dialogue, etc., because they actually believe in their vision, as Aleksandr was explaining, of Eretz Israel, Greater Israel, from the Nile to the Euphrates, with everything in between. And they quote fake scriptures saying, our sages in their language, our sages in the past says that Jerusalem goes all the way to Damascus. And they actually believe in that, and they want to implement it. No, they want the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, to implement it. They cannot. Everybody knows that. And generals in the Pentagon, they also know that. So this is very, very dangerous, because they, with the genocide, they created a spiral. And what is happening to Gaza, basically this project is a project that comes from years. It didn't start after October 7. This was planned for years. They needed a trigger. The trigger was October 7. We can go for 10 hours why October 7 happened. Of course, there was a general conceptualization of an event like that by General Soleimani in the past, by Yahya Sinwar, the conceptualizer of Hamas, etc. But they knew that the response would be something absolutely dreadful, which in our case is a genocide in the early 21st century. But the big picture for them is Eretz Israel, and what's in their way? The axis of resistance. And they say the head of the snake is Iran. But they cannot fight a war against Iran. What do they really want? And everybody in Washington knows that. They want to drag the United States to fight the war against Iran for them. They cannot even fight against Hezbollah. You have seen, or our audience, you have seen their incursions in southern Lebanon, and they're being eviscerated by Hezbollah. Every time that they try an incursion, they advance 10 meters, 20 meters, 50 meters, and they're killed, literally. And if they try something en masse, this is exactly what's going to happen en masse, and they're going to have thousands of victims, not only tens. So it's completely unrealistic, it's apocalyptic, it's scatological, but at the same time it's extremely dangerous, because the spiral now involves the whole of West Asia, including the peripheral actors like Egypt and Jordan, which are absolutely terrified, as corrupt as they are, that little king of Jordan and Sisi in Egypt. But they are terrified because the war, there will be a spillover effect, and it will involve their nations as well. And MBS and MBZ from far away, they look at that and say, oh, what we had in mind in terms of economic integration with Israel, obviously we cannot do it. And Iran, okay, just to finish, 30 seconds. Iran, it's a very special case, because there is all the work that General Soleimani did to organize the axis of resistance long term. And we are right in the middle of what he thought 10, 15 years ago. And at the same time, Iran doesn't want a war, as Aleksandr said absolutely correctly. They know that the war may be inevitable, but if it is inevitable, they're ready for it. I was discussing this with my great friend Marandi, professor of University of Tehran, last week in Istanbul. We spent hours discussing. And Professor Marandi has excellent connections with people around Ayatollah Khamenei and IRGC as well, and even with reformists. He talks to everybody and he says, yes, everybody is more or less resigned. If it happens, we're ready.